welcome back. And we're moving into our second conversation for today as we find out more about what's happening with our national university, the University of Belize. We are joined by Professor Emeritus Clement Sankat. Of course, he is the president of the University of Belize. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, and good morning to all our listeners, and always a pleasure to be here, my dear.
Yeah, thank you for coming back. And of course, today we have some very substantial information to discuss.
Very good.
And I wanna start off by just talking about some of the preliminary changes that has taken place at the University of Belize since you have taken up the leadership. We know you were very much in tune with what is necessary or what was most urgent for the students and the staff at that time. So tell us how the changes have been going.
Well, thank you very much. And it's a fitting time to be here because I've just spent a year in Belize and at the University of Belize. You were the first to welcome me sometime in February of last year. Well, a lot has happened in the last year, but of course, all of that informed by me getting to know the environment in which I was operating, both the university and the community. And I'm still learning. I'm learning every day as we speak. But I think the year ended on a major note, where having spent close to a year in late December, I was charged by the Board of Trustees to develop a transformational plan for the university. And I was able to deliver to the board on the 20th of December a plan called a transformational leap. The emphasis is the word leap for the University of Belize, Vision 2022. So it's actually a 5-year plan. And that was informed by the perspectives of my colleagues from the various faculties or various centers, etc. And of course by the senior managers and administrators, by the board itself, and from all that I gleaned over the last year and prepared this plan. And it tackles, the plan hopefully will tackle a number of areas. It's not a strategic plan, it's a smart operational plan.
Is it an action plan?
It's an action plan, so we know exactly what we are supposed to be doing. Of course, one of the things about the University of Belize is that it came out of a collegiate system. It's only 18 years old, still very young. But we have to lift that. We have to move it from that kind of thinking to that of a university. And good universities are based upon 3 planks. One, of course, is teaching, and we're doing that pretty well at the University of Belize. But the second plank good universities are built upon is research and innovation. And I'm afraid that has not been center to the university's mission.
Let me just ask a question here, because I think from our early conversations when you first came on board and you were kind of just looking around and assessing the different culture, the culture at the university, the culture in Belize. I know that you were very critical of some of the areas with hopes of opening up opportunities to improve. One was simple things like infrastructure in some of the classes. I very clearly remember you identifying with students about not learning because of mosquitoes attack. The qualifications of the professors being another. After 1 year, how have you found the culture or the climate for change at the university and the openness for partnership with private sector and even with the government to be able to make the necessary investments in the university?
Well, I think I have found a very receptive environment, extremely receptive environment. On the areas that you touched, since I've been here, we have made inroads in a number of areas in the infrastructure, for example, to try to create a more supportive environment for our students and our staff. Now, all of this, a lot of the issues here are predicated on the financial issues at the University of Belize, and I can get back to that. But the infrastructure is used. I think if you were to go to the Belmopan campus today, it looks a prettier place because of the support I've had, for example, to do the road work, the parking lots, and the city of Belmopan has also been very, very supportive, and that's the kind of partnership and the reception that I've gotten. The buildings have been lifted, painted, and the grounds are being beautified, even within the classrooms, new furniture, etc., wherever we can. Belize City has also been lifted. There are still issues there with the flies, or what we call sand flies or mosquitoes, which should not occur. But we have been putting in screens, etc., but the facilities in Belize City are very old. They came from the old teachers' college, some of, I don't know, in the 50s. And we also have very old and decaying facilities in the engineering school, Freetown Road. Those came from the old technical college. To be very honest, they're not quite fit. And so we have to develop a plan to transform that. And for engineering, we have a plan to build a brand new engineering school in Belmopan, subject to the capital funding. And I've gone out to some donors, written the proposals, etc. So we've been tackling some of those areas. Punta Gorda, again, some transformation is occurring there with respect to the physical facilities. It's becoming much more student-friendly, much more beautiful campus. And then, of course, there's the financial side. Now, I'll put it to you. The tuition at the University of Belize has not been raised since the inception of the university. University began in 2000. The students are paying the same tuition, barring a few small exceptions. Same. And just to give you an example, for an associate degree at University of Belize, 5 semesters, $5,000. Add 2 more years to the bachelor's degrees, and it's $10,000. My understanding, some of the secondary schools and colleges may be charging more than the University of Belize.
Yeah.
That would be a very unpopular suggestion, though, that it be raised, particularly where in other countries, for example, Barbados, it's free.
It is no longer free.
It used to be when I was there.
It is no longer free. At Mona, it has never been free.
No.
In Trinidad, where I come from, it used to be free. It is no longer free.
In Belize, we flirted with it being free, though.
Well, Belize has a choice to make. Yeah. Universities need money to support itself. Yeah. And the big money in the University of Belize is people. Most universities, the major cost is the people. Yeah. People cost, and at UB it absorbs more than 80% of the recurrent expenditure. More than 80%. And therefore...
Is that a part of the transformation plan, to change the tuition rates?
Well, let me put it this way. We have made proposals to the government, and the government subvention to the University of Belize has not changed in 10 years.
That's a different story.
Well, no, it's not. The two are related. Yeah. Because governments normally subsidize university education. To what extent do they wish to subsidize the education at the University of Belize? So the two things are absolutely related. Yeah. And so what we have done, we have given our government options. We've given the government options through the Board of Trustees. There is no decision at this time to raise any tuition or for us to get an increased subvention, although we're working hard at it. Remember, if the subvention is significant, the pressure on raising tuition reduces, right? If there is no increase in subvention, then the pressure on raising tuition goes up. Yeah. So it's the kind of balance. But let me say, in all of the Caribbean today, free education at the university level is a thing of the past. And education is expensive business. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, but we see other parts of the world returning to it as well. We see universities in New York, for example, offering residents tuition free. But I want to come back because I understand 10 years is a long time, or since 2000 actually is a long time for no changes. And we are in a critical state where we need our people to be educated.
Absolutely.
We need people to have the skills and the foundation necessary to become a more productive country. The argument can be, though, if you are looking at increasing tuition or changing fees, what are you offering extra? How has the quality of the education changed since, if there is to be any change in the tuition at this point in time?
Let me...
What's my value for my money?
Well, you've been getting value already for your money.
Well, I mean...
You have been getting value for your money. You have been getting value that is pegged at the year 2000. Mm-hmm. Can you buy anything today with 2000 money, my dear?
Oh, I wish.
So let me leave it to you.
Yeah.
The University of Belize, and I am committed to the university's mission,
Yeah.
which is to provide affordable and accessible education to Belizeans. This is the National University of Belize. And we need to be able to ensure that students from any class or any walk of life, and I know there are many in Belize, like many in the Caribbean, who are challenged. We need to give them a chance to come to this university. And because university education is one of the safest ways or surest ways of lifting people out of poverty. So I'm committed to that. And therefore, any discussion on tuition or fees is not only sensitive for Belize, for me, because you can raise tuition to such an extent that the enrollment at the University of Belize plummets.
And it makes a
We
difference.
want none of that.
Yeah.
In fact, I want to tell you, at this current time, at this moment as I speak, there are, within the university environment of about 5,000 students, there are a couple hundred students right now in the University of Belize who have paid nothing for this semester. They were supposed to have been removed from the registration list in early January. No, so I put a hold on it.
Yeah.
They've been given until the end of March. There are students, hundreds of students, who have not paid their tuition fees. They paid some, but not. Today, as I speak, these students together, for this semester only, owe the university more than $3 million at this time.
Wow.
So, could you imagine if the tuition was to go up? What might happen to those students?
Yeah.
What I think we need to rethink how university education is going to be funded. And I am more one to suggest that students should be given access to loans to fund their university education and should repay them on graduation and finding employment.
It's an investment in self.
It's an investment, and that all must contribute. Not only the government, but the students and their parents and their guardians, and the private sector also.
With scholarships.
With scholarships and support. Because everyone benefits. But the usual challenge is, what is the ratios? Who pays what amount? That's a long debate. But I hear you.
But no, and we had to get into that conversation because that would be a very, what was the word you used? Upsetting change for people. But I know it takes finances to be able to invest back into the institution and the quality of education that you want to deliver to the students.
Well, let me put to you, you asked me on the issue of quality. The University of Belize takes on quality very seriously. Quality is not a fixed goal. Quality is always a moving goal. And for me, quality is always a moving upward goal. It never stops. So we have to embed quality in whatever we do at the University of Belize. It must be the way we think as academics, as administrators, and that's my UE hat. Quality is embedded at the University of West Indies. Everything we do,
And
we think quality.
perception is important, and that's where I wanted to touch on, because whether or not it's a quality education, I often feel, and this is not unique to the university, it's a cultural issue that we face, that if it's Belizean, it's substandard. And it has also extended into the university education as well. Now, it has changed a bit because there are a lot more people seeking their first degree from the university. But how do you work in building that image of the university as well, that it feels as prestigious as going to the University of West Indies? Because when people graduate from UWI, there is a sense of accomplishment that everyone adopts when they see them, because you know that it is an institution of high standards. So how do you build that image for our national university as well?
Well, first of all, I think the University of Belize has not been telling its story. It needs to communicate much more what it does and how it does it. And that's why I'm here. And I think that's probably something else you may have noted in the last year, that the University of Belize has been more frontal about what it is doing. It's not some backwater place hidden away and staying quietly in a shell, not willing to come out. No, we are changing that. We must tell the story. But in this transformational plan, we are hoping that by 2022, the University of Belize would have put its quality house in order so that it can apply for regional or international accreditation.
Wow.
But it needs time to put your house in order. It's not just a stamp. We have to put the quality processes in place. We have to show that those quality processes are working in a documented way. We have to do an internal self-study of the institution. We have to fix the gaps. When we've done all of that, we can apply for accreditation. And that is part of one of the major plans for giving the university the kind of reputation. But that is not the only thing. I was talking about research, etc. The university must get more involved in research and must talk about its research and
there
its
is some
impact.
Research,
Small, but must talk about its impact on Belizean society. That brings respect.
Professor, I have to say that as a UA alumni, and I've had full gamut of the university experience. Came back home and in fact taught a little at the university. Then became a student at the university doing econ and business administration. But of recent, we have seen, well, in my opinion, we've seen the influence of your presence at the university. I'm not only talking about the recent gargantuan success of bringing the National University to do something that really no one else could do, in getting the mayoral candidates to sit down and have a debate and letting the students drive it. But I wanted to shift away from the student, what the students are receiving and what their expectations are, to something that's a pet peeve of mine, which is the teachers. When I went to, and Marlene was talking about quality, when I went to UA, I was taught law by the guy who wrote the book. Mr. Codellini wrote the book, and he was sitting there teaching me. And the book was, there is an English version of the book, and there was the one that he wrote, which had Caribbean cases, which had a Caribbean focus, and which drove that. In Belize, correct me if I'm wrong, but to get professor status and to be teaching at university, there is a structure which allows teachers to have days off to do research, not only the students, but I find that there's a lack of production of text material relevant to Belize. It's part of the transitional plan for us to get textbooks which are relevant, whether specific to Belize, and research that is specific to Belize or the Caribbean.
Well, let me put it this way. I started by saying the institution has more of a collegiate mindset.
Yes.
University professors who do research, the next thing they do is write textbooks. Right?
Yes.
Universities must not only transmit knowledge, it must create new knowledge. And that is the difference. Most of the law in the law programs at UWI, The professors are, in fact, the ones who have written the books.
Yes.
Dana Sita, you must have used her book,
Yes,
a very
I
popular
did.
book. Rosemary, Antoine.
Taught me as well.
You know what I mean? They're all written their own book because these are outstanding scholars. Now, we would like to get there, but you ask about professors. The University of Belize has no professor but me.
None of professor status.
That's correct.
No, I mean, we have to
means
explain
something.
it, yeah.
Professors mean that you have reached a rank of distinction as a scholar mainly. Professors are judged a lot upon their scholarship, their writing, their publication, including their books. But I think there are colleagues of mine at the University of Belize who should take on the challenge of writing textbooks for university students, not primary necessarily or secondary schools, because the thinking and the mindset has to be raised.
It has to be
We have to
elevated.
raise the bar.
Absolutely.
And you know, one of the things about University of Belize graduates, you must always remember that. When you think of the University of West Indies and its output, 90% are people with bachelor's degrees, not associate degrees. So sometimes you say, you judge the quality of your graduates, forgetting that the majority of the graduates coming out of UB at this time are associate degree graduates. And that's in the plan to move that to another level, to move it more to the bachelor's level. Spending 4 years at university will make a tremendous difference to these very young people, as opposed to 2 years. You don't have enough time to grow and mature and develop the thought process.
Thank you. And I'm glad you went there, because it was part of what we spoke about the last time, but is also important to push it further. And we spoke about some of the emotional intelligence that also has to be built as a part of a university student. The expectation that someone understands the work ethic that is involved and the professionalism as well for whatever individual field they're moving into. Talk to us about your transformational leap and some of the things I saw. You're calling it the 4 R's. And you know, the components of reaching out, respect, and talk to us about how it's more than just looking at infrastructure and qualification.
Well, I'm glad you picked it up. The 4 R's. The first one is very dear to me, is reach. Reaching out to all sectors of Belizean society, Belizean geography, so that we can get these students into our national university. And how we do that, we get back to the area of scholarships and finance, etc., etc. And then we also talk about relevance, developing relevant programs. And in this new transformational plan, we have a suite of new programs. Some have already started. You asked me what we're accomplished. We have our new bachelor's program in nursing. We have a bachelor's program in pharmacy. You see, raising the bar.
And there's so many experienced nurses that are going back to get their bachelor's degree with years of experience.
Pharmacy. The Bachelor in Med Lab program, all very, very successful. I'm very, very pleased with what is happening in the nursing schools. And then, of course, you saw in business. We moved into a new Bachelor of Business Administration with a focus on marketing, finance, and competitiveness. Marketing and international competitiveness. We also developed the first master's program at the University of Belize, the MBA program, that is being taught right now to a group of 28 students in Belize City. So we are trying very hard to move quickly to becoming a university. In this set of courses, a number of new programs. I'm an engineer. The University of Belize for 20 years has stayed at the associate degree in engineering, coming out of that same technical school. 20 years, sat right there. Building and civil, electrical and mechanical, and architecture. Isn't there a need for us to move more towards a bachelor's degree in engineering? Engineering is one profession that changes the world. Engineering, we have a very good program, a bachelor's program in computer science. But allied to that, I would like to see a bachelor's program in computer engineering. The two things are related, but a little different. And so it goes, a bachelor's degree in hospitality, not tourism, a hotel school. This is a service-driven economy. The Faculty of Social Sciences has done very well in business administration, in business studies. What about sociology?
Yeah.
What about economics and finance? What about crime and criminology, psychology? So we have to build that other side of the Faculty of Social Sciences.
Can I go backwards a little, if you'd allow me? Part of this transformational plan obviously looks a little bit more on the way the university is structured. I'm curious as to whether or not these different, you said that the campus in Belize City they're not necessarily as appropriate as they need to be. Punta Gorda needs some development. Are we pandering to some sort of sentimental political appeal? And when I say political, I don't mean partisan. I mean political in terms of appeasement, popular.
Yeah.
To say we need a university outlet in PG and we need one in Belize City. In Jamaica, there is one. That's downtown Kingston, as far as I'm understanding.
There's another one.
But
there's one in Montego Bay.
But there's one in Montego Bay.
They built a campus in Montego Bay.
But that's after years of developing it.
Yeah.
Does Belize need to cut back first, get quality in Belmopan, expand there? Because there is some value, and I think part of the university life that I valued, and Marlene spoke to the quality of somebody who comes back from a UA with those skills. But part of it is from being on an intellectual hub. When you are on Mona campus, you're on Cable campus, you meet all these intellectuals, all the academics, whether or not they're from engineering, whether or not you're drinking a beer with them at the guild. But there's that exchange of ideas, there's that connection, which ultimately expands the nation building. When we dilute the campus the way we do, for posturing's sake, to my mind, do we lose some of what eventually comes as part of this nation building?
Well, I think what you will sense from this transformational plan, the issue has been addressed.
Okay.
There is going to be more consolidation in Belmopan as the center of the university to create that a special kind of environment you speak about. By the way, we don't have a senior common room in Belmopan because alcohol is not allowed there. Something that I would want to think about. But I understand where you come from.
That would be very popular.
I know. But we have little kids coming there, so we got to balance that. Yeah. But there will be a move to consolidate. However, it goes back to the first R, or reach. Mm-hmm. Punta Gorda, for example, has, and the numbers have been growing. Last year we approached close to 400 students. I can assure you that if we weren't there, half of those students probably wouldn't have the opportunity to come for a university education. Yeah. In Belize City, we have about 1,500 students. And most of the programs in Belize City are in the evening. Yeah. So they're really for a very strong working population of students who are coming in 4 o'clock and staying there 8, 9 and working. Now, you have to balance this. We have to give them an opportunity. Mm-hmm. So I would not want us to remove Belize City or Punta Gorda. In fact, on Saturday, we had a ceremony in Orange Walk. It's the first time I spoke in Orange Walk, where we had a completion ceremony for the early childhood education program, where we delivered training of teachers for early childhood education and secondary education, hundreds, funded by the European Union, the government of Belize, and UB. And we had a wonderful closing ceremony there. And I did say, this is northern Belize. Mm-hmm. Why doesn't the University of Belize have a presence there? Yeah. Because you have to remember what is different about Belize and many of the Caribbean countries. Belize is much bigger than Trinidad and Tobago, Grenada, St. Vincent, probably Jamaica is a little big.
Barbados, for sure.
Or Barbados. So we need this ability to reach out and connect with our students. So I wouldn't want to give this up. What we need to do is to become more efficient. Yeah. We cannot, I'll be the first to admit, we cannot, with the state of our finances, manage each as a self-standing campus. No way. We don't have the money to do that. We can have them more as sites where students can come for the delivery of our programs. And we therefore have to consolidate and become very efficient on how we manage those sites. Because as you rightly say, it's a drain, it does cost. You can't create 4 universities.
Let me, because quickly running out of time here. And there's an R that's not in your 4 R's that I thought would be included, and that's resources. It takes resources to be able to execute all that you have within your transformational lead. As you mentioned, you've taken it up to your board of directors, and what is the plan? Because you may have the actions with the date marker, with the date set out, you have particular vision, but if you don't have the resources coming in, it is not going to happen.
So let me address that firmly. It's all in there.
Yeah.
It's all in there. We are running at a deficit of about $3.5 million a year at the University of Belize. How are we going to close this gap? Well, first of all, we have to become more efficient at what we do and try to trim wherever there may be excess and do whatever we are doing right now much more effectively, much more cost efficient. So we cut back on our expenses. While we do have a plan in front of the government, tell us what we can do with respect to this balance, with respect to an increased subvention from the state and possible tuition. No decisions have been made about that. Nothing has come back yet out of the government, although we are hearing these are very difficult times in Belize. I'm getting that sense. So we have a plan, but we can't do it alone. We cannot do it alone. And the tuition, you could do it. You could say we raise the tuition to close the gap. If you were to raise that tuition to close this gap, the enrollment at Belize might go to, University of Belize might go to 2,000 students from 5,000. So it has to be a balance. It has to be balanced. The other thing that we need, and it's in the plan, we need a whole capital refurbishment that is of the order of $30-something million a year, new facilities. The facilities in Belize City are aged. It's a real challenge there, what to do with those facilities. And really and truly, we need, if I had my way, a whole new university center, one large building, to take care of mainly our social science programs, management programs, and some of education, because the rest are really in Belmopan. Because we are going to move engineering into Belmopan. And we have put up a proposal to get that. So I'm working now to try to raise the funding for these buildings. And it's really writing proposals and trying to get out to potential donors, because I wish it could come from the government. The private sector also, I'm appealing to them as we speak. Give us your support for some of these facilities and let us embed your name in the campus or the university.
This is fresh and inspiring for me, because I think that we place a lot on the university without even realizing what we're placing on them, because we expect these same young people to come back into the society to drive national development. I wanted to know, is the plan a public document, the transitional plan a public document that we can find somewhere that, you know, somebody who's interested and curious could read through it?
Sure. Well, what the board has asked me to do, a lot of it in here is still internal. All the fine financial details, the staffing, the level of staffing, etc., how we plan to treat with some of that is in here. The board has asked me to convert this document into a more popular document for public appeal.
Into a shareable document.
The shareable document. And I'm working on that as we speak, and I would say in the next 4 or 5 weeks I should have that ready. Wow. And of course, nice and looking good too. But I want to say, UB had a strategic plan in 2011, sitting on a shelf. This goes from strategy to action. this ain't sitting on no shelf. We live in this, and we gonna make it happen. Come, hell or high water, as they say.
Well, Professor Sankat, we are out of time. I want to say thank you for coming in, and best of luck.
Thank you, my dear, and thanks for having me here.
All right.
Good.
We're going to go ahead and take a break, and when we come back, we'll be joined by representatives of the YWCA, so stay tuned.